To Sean Fielding, the former leader of Oldham Council, disgraced, booted out, went running to Andy Burnham. To Andy Burnham and to everyone in Bolton's Labour Party. How would you like it if I was to come to Bolton with a team of child sex exploitation survivors with leaflets crowdfunded by the people of my town, delivered through the letterboxes of voters? How would you like it? Sean Fielding and the Labour Party. How would you like it if a team of survivors, child sex exploitation survivors from Oldham, were to descend on the streets of Bolton? Oh yeah. A very good evening. It is Sunday the 29th of January 2023. For those of you new to this, my name is Raj Amir, and for the last approaching 5 years now, I have been fighting Oldham Council, Greater Manchester Police, the Manchester Evening News, the Oldham Times, the Oldham Chronicles, and the Labour Party, the Lib Dems, all of them, in exposing the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of my town's children and the corruption and the complicity of those in positions of power in not just covering up the grooming and gang rape of children, but exposing, articulating, doing my best to explain why. Why in Oldham, why in Rochdale, why in Manchester, why in Tameside. Oh yeah. It goes on. Do not think for 1 minute that these grooming gangs operated in silos in local authority, borders, boundaries. No chance whatsoever. Sean Fielding is standing in Bolton, in a ward in Bolton. He thinks the people of Oldham have forgotten, and he has already started to threaten decent people in Bolton in an almost identical manner to what he did here. Well, no chance. Survivors of the grooming gangs have contacted me wanting to know if I have any plans of going to Bolton in the way I campaigned in Chadderton South, and whether they can come with me with leaflets so they can tell their stories of what Sean Fielding did and his council were complicit in. To my friends in the Labour Party, and indeed I do have friends in the Labour Party, the only political party I have ever been a member of is the Labour Party, and to all of you who know me, I have historically consistently described myself as a socialist. Clearly not the sort of socialism that this lot now know, but one where if you are in need, then others help you, and you have a responsibility to help others during their time of need. It's a very, very simple interpretation. It was one that I was taught from the example of the elders around me. So that's where I come from. So Sean Fielding, the Labour Party in Bolton, Andy Burnham, Angela Rayner. Do you want a team of CSE survivors descending onto the streets of Bolton, or is this man going to step down? For those of you who are new to these transmissions, please consider taking up a subscription. I'm told that Charlotte Green and her friends at the Manchester Evening News, Reach PLC, the Oldham Times, the Oldham Chronicle, the Mill, Tortoise Media, who all, by the way, rely on subscriptions, actually absolutely detest that this channel, these transmissions, my work is 100% funded by decent, ordinary people who have had enough and have waited in vain for someone to pick up the issues that they care about and be able to articulate and fight for them, which I have been doing for the last 4 or 5 years now, and I have suffered immensely for that. Those of you who know this will know I have suffered immensely for that. Residents in Bolton are understandably alarmed by Sean Fielding's nomination as a Labour Party candidate. He's not from Bolton. He's from Failsworth. If he's lived in Bolton, he's lived there for months, if that. A short period of time. He's already started campaigning about buses and stuff as though he's a, he's a local champion. And when news started spreading online by the likes of Oldham Eye, Jane Barker, Moyib, all victims, all harassed by this man, Sean Fielding did what Sean Fielding does best. He started contacting people who were sharing posts and threatening them. One of them was this man called Andrew. I've seen a few, by the way, so this isn't in isolation. Hi, Andrew. I have been made aware of this post. The post is false and defamatory, and I would appreciate it if you took it down. If you look online, you will see that the allegations of cover-up were conspiracies which were widely debunked, both by countless media investigations and by an inquiry conducted by the investigation who looked into the Rotherham child abuse scandal. Pause for a second. He's claiming the allegations of a cover-up were conspiracies, which I invited to come in and investigate during my time at Oldham. Lie. Complete lie. He's claiming he invited Malcolm Newsom and Gary Ridgway. No. What you had was the renowned Dr. Peel, or whatever he was called, who ran away and refused to do the investigation on your terms, with your terms of reference, with the paperwork that you only allowed. And you went to Andy Burnham and he just tried to bolt it on to the investigation in Manchester and the investigation in Rochdale with his team that he already had of Malcolm Newsom and Gary Ridgway, con artists, a pair of them, as we've exposed. So no, you did not invite them to come in. Who I'm sure you will agree know what they are talking about. No. Oldham Heart is a party that was set up by Paul Taylor, a man who at the last minute was asked to step down as a parliamentary candidate for the Brexit party in Oldham in favour of somebody from out of the area. I can only speculate as to the reasons they didn't want him to be their candidate. So he's claiming that the allegations of a cover-up were conspiracies which were widely debunked both by countless media investigations. Which media investigation took place? None. All the media lot, they were his Labour Party mates, like the pyjama-wearing ponce Joshie Herman from the Mill, who's run away, by the way. Run a mile. Charlotte Green, Jennifer Williams. Exactly, mate, exactly. Misleading the truth like a political slug he is. They take us for fools. So I want to do something with you. Please, so just bear with me. I got told a few people messaged me to say how they preferred last week's, the transmission I did during the week, because I spoke really fast and I didn't think and I'd prepared it. It was a different sort of presentation. These are, I don't work like that. I'm not got a teleprompter, and I don't work like that. It's not something I prefer. I prefer to, if I look this way, it's because I'm reading what you're saying and I'm trying to keep you engaged and keep you going, really focused. The word cover up means, this is the dictionary definition, and there's a few definitions, but the most appropriate of the definitions is trying to hide the fact of illegal or illicit activity. That's what cover up means. There's no ambiguity to that. That's what cover up means. I remember Dr. Chohan's lawyers, and that's for another day, didn't like my use of the word death trap. Well, I took that from a dictionary, and I'm taking this from a dictionary as well. This is what I exposed. So we're very, very clear. 1, historical grooming and gang rape of children in Oldham had been kept hidden. Hidden, kept hidden, means cover up, right? 2, I then specified that children in broad daylight had been lured into shisha bars. Where they were groomed, raped, and trafficked. And what we mean by trafficked is they were sold. Okay? 3rd, the information I put out there raised concerns over a network of taxis and taxi drivers having access to children who they transported, groomed, and raped themselves. 4, I exposed that Oldham Council, the town's politicians, and Greater Manchester Police and the press, the mainstream media, knew and kept it hidden. 5, I exposed, and this would have landed me in prison if it wasn't true. If it wasn't true, it would have landed me in prison, is that I exposed that Jim McMahon knew and helped hide it. I exposed that not only did Shabir Ahmed, and remember they're now claiming this was all common knowledge, not only did Shabir Ahmed work for Oldham Council, but that he had access to children. I exposed that Shabir Ahmed was a member of the Labour Party and also a member of Oldham's establishment. I exposed, and by that I mean he was a director of the CAB alongside the great and the good in the town. I exposed that the reason Jim, OMBC, etc. claimed CSE claimed to hide CSE, as in keep it away from public knowledge, was to maintain community relations. And just to finish it off with a 9. I brought to light multiple examples of where children had been groomed, and one I keep going back to is Count Hill School, the gates of Count Hill School. He's claiming the cover-up is a conspiracy which was widely debunked. Barefaced lies was his response to the grooming and gang rape of children in Oldham. The barefaced lies was a response to how children had been dragged off the street into shisha bars where they were groomed, raped and trafficked. We now know that Oldham Council knowingly gave convicted child sex offenders licences. Not by mistake, but knowingly. We also now know that the council knew, the town's politicians knew, Greater Manchester Police knew, because they've been forced to apologise, and also the mainstream media knew. And they all worked together to keep it hidden. And remember, at the same time, the Lib Dem councillor for Shaw, Rod Blythe, I exposed as a child sex offender, convicted child sex offender. And all of these agencies, the police, the press, the council, and the town's politicians had worked together. It's a matter of fact now that Jim McMahon knew. And his defence was that blog he wrote, 18 months afterwards? No, he helped hide it. You can see from the transcripts within the report what happened. And indeed, Arooj Shah, thank you, in her last speech as leader of the council, forced to admit it was still going on. They claimed it was public knowledge that Shabir Ahmed worked for Oldham Council. Well, as we now know, it wasn't public knowledge that he was employed by the council for 18 years, seconded to the Pakistani community centre, where he had his little black book selling children to his customers, and that the police had charged him and forgot to tell the council, and the council continued to employ him where he continued to have access to children. Do you believe the police forgot to tell the council? And we can't get to the bottom of it, the reference that came from the mayor's office. We also now know, confirmed, that he was a senior member of the Labour Party, an influential member of the Labour Party, and also a key member of Oldham's establishment because he was a director of the Citizen Advice Bureau, whose directors are only the great and the good and the establishment figures in the town. It's now also been confirmed that the reason that the council kept it hidden, so it wasn't a cover-up, they kept it hidden, was for the tensions to do with Lee Rigby. and community relations because the BNP were campaigning. And we also know not only were children groomed and gang raped from the gates of Count Hill School, but the cover-up continues because Oldham Council and its partners, including Andy Burnham, Amanda Chadderton, Chief Superintendent Chris Bowen, all of them, Gerard Jones, the Borough Solicitor Paul Entwistle, the Director of Constitutional Service or whatever it is, Elizabeth Drogan, all of them sit at that top table. Not one of them will tell us how many of our children were groomed and gang raped. They won't even give a number. They have a number, they won't give a number. So people in Bolton, this, what we have been fighting for the last 4 or 5 years, has not been debunked. It is not a conspiracy or a far-right conspiracy, as these people repeatedly claimed. It is real. Children in our town were groomed and gang raped. White working class children in our town were groomed and gang raped by predominantly Pakistani men, occasionally Bangladeshis, almost exclusively Muslim, bloc Labour Party voting supporters. Its ringleader was a senior Labour Party figure in the town, a senior member, establishment Shabir Ahmed, and Sean Fielding is claiming it's a conspiracy and defamatory. This information is defamatory. Well, let's move on. Let's move on from just talking about the grooming gangs and the cover-up here. Barefaced lies. Let's move on. During COVID, Oldham was about to get put in lockdown because of a spike in cases, predominantly because of specific communities like mine who were ignoring the rules. They tried to hide the ward data in the way they presented it. Community relations, I suppose. As the government was considering putting Oldham in lockdown, Sean Fielding and his girlfriend were on holiday in Lanzarote. They tried to hide it with coordinated press releases, time-delayed press releases and all the rest of it. And at the time, Lanzarote was on the Foreign Office's please try not to go there list. In the moment of need, in the hour of need, the town's leader was in a rubber dinghy or a rubber whatever they're called, in a pool in Lanzarote. When it became increasingly apparent that he was going to be challenged in the town, Sean Fielding was the council leader responsible for the instigation. It was on his watch that Operation Hexagon was launched. People of Bolton, Operation Hexagon is a Greater Manchester Police and Oldham Council joint operation. Its purpose is to trawl through social media posts, Facebook, YouTube, so on, transmissions like mine, see who comments on it, and then trawl through their data to see whether they can find anything on the people who are commenting on it. Why? Why do you think? To attempt to criminalise, intimidate them, scare them, what? It's definitely unlawful. Andy Burnham knows it's unlawful, and he will not issue a statement on Operation Hexagon because he doesn't want to get drawn in. He knows what Oldham Council and Greater Manchester Police have done is illegal. All the MPs know that Operation Hexagon is illegal. It is unlawful. A day of reckoning will come. Bolton, do you really want any of this? And then what happened was that he used his position as leader of Oldham Council, Just give me one moment. Oh yes, we mobilised. We mobilised in a way that a working class town has never mobilised before. And we took him out despite the entire machinery of the Labour Party coming to Failsworth to try and protect him. So this Wolfgang Cole picked up on this, submitted an FOI request. And there's a transmission I've got at the time where I share the evidence. Apparently I never have the evidence. There's a transmission on Facebook from a time, and I'll copy and paste it at some point when I've got the time, where I share the evidence of just one case of how he harassed this lady and tried to get her sacked. And I know he's got other people sacked for daring to ask questions. So this is the FOI that went in. Dear Oldham Metropolitan Borough Council, over the last year, former leader of council, Councillor Sean Fielding, contacted the employers of several people to make a complaint about them. Under the Freedom of Information Act 2000, I am requesting the following information insofar that GDPR permits. For each case, 1st of January 2022, where Councillor Fielding contacted an employer of somebody not employed by OMBC to make a complaint about them, please provide the following: the date on which the complaint was made, the general nature of the complaint. Please clarify if Councillor Fielding used his official council email address or official council headed paper to contact the employer. Please clarify if Councillor Fielding was acting in a personal capacity, his capacity as a councillor, or free as leader of the council. If known, please let me know what the resolution was in each case, i.e. no action was taken, employee was reprimanded, sanctioned, etc. They won't get the E because the data isn't to do with Oldham Council on the last one. The data is to do with the employers. But A, B, C and D. Okay. You can see the date. 13th of May. They're meant to respond in 20 days. Legal services is Paul Bentwhistle. They play around. It escalates. 20th of September 2021. You get a response. So 4 months. Tried to hide it. Claimed GDPR prevents them. You can see. This is legal services. Paul Bentwhistle lying. He knows what GDPR does or doesn't. Lying. They've got to submit a revised response on the 31st of March 2022. Do you see how long that's gone on? 31st of March 2022. The original Freedom, open and transparent council, remember people, open and transparent, 13th of May 2021. And the actual response comes back 30th of March 2022. You can see there. 31st of March 2022. Nearly a year later. I'll show you. The date on which the complaint was made. They don't say how many people he complained about. 22 of the 7th, 2020. 23rd of the 8th, 2020. That's a falsehood from Oldham Council because I know from speaking with victims directly, he complained about more than 2 people, unless they're trying to hide us. Do you see the value in asking questions in a specific way? The date on which the complaint was made, 22nd of the 7th, 2020, he could have submitted 10 complaints on that day. Do you see? We don't know. He could have submitted 10 complaints on that day, and the 23rd of the 8th, he could have submitted another 50. So we don't even know how many people he complained against. The general nature of the complaint, inappropriate comments, no. He called them racist, far-right activists, conspiring with criminals, so on and so on. He tried to ruin the lives of people. Inappropriate comments was not what took place. He submitted it from his Oldham Council email address. You can see there, and in his capacity as leader of the council. Sean Fielding should have been arrested by Greater Manchester Police. This is malicious communication and a clear case of harassment, if not malicious communication. It's an abuse of power, contrary to the Nolan standards, which I'll get to in a minute. All the victims gave statements to Greater Manchester Police. And you know what those bent scumbags did? Detective Inspector Kenny Blaine from Oldham Police Station, those corrupt criminal police officers did. They refused to look at the evidence. They refused to interview Sean Fielding, and they blocked it from going to the CPS. The criminal police officers complicit in the cover-up of gang rape of little girls blocked it. Detective Inspector Kenny Blaine and his pals at Oldham Police Station blocked it. Blocked an investigation, a criminal investigation. Now, of course, we now know Greater Manchester Police is infested with sex offenders of some form or another. Sexual misconduct investigations. What? The best part of 100 that they've had to admit to. What's the real number? Because we know these people cover up for each other. 3 times? 10 times? 1,000 of them? How many sexual predators are there in Greater Manchester Police? How many? They're investigating just under 100 that they've been forced to admit to. And I'll get to that in a moment. But Greater Manchester Police have been complicit in covering up for Sean Fielding, and the council, likewise, were complicit in the cover-up and delayed the standards investigation until he'd lost his seat, at which point they said, oh, he's no longer here, so we don't need to investigate. Can you imagine that in any other job? He's no longer here, so we don't have to investigate. Oh, he raped that girl in that toilet, but he's no longer here, so we don't have to investigate. Oh, he stole £10,000 and quit, so we don't have to investigate. Can you imagine that in any other role? He's no longer here, so we don't have to investigate. So he's in breach. He should have been investigated, because if he had been investigated and a report was made to the Labour Party, including Keir Starmer, and they covered it up. Of course, Sean Fielding is Angela Rayner's mate, and he was also the protege of Jim McMahon MP. He should not be standing as a candidate. And so Bolton, Labour Party in Bolton. We in Oldham have not forgotten, and we sure as hell have not forgiven. And this man has learnt no lessons. Do you want a contingent of Oldham people, including survivors of child sex exploitation, descending on your town, handing out leaflets, knocking on doors, warning them of not just Sean Fielding, but that he is standing with the support and endorsement of every other Labour Party councillor and politician in Bolton? Is that what you want, Bolton? If you find value in these transmissions, at the very least, like the post. Maybe subscribe to the channel. Buy me a coffee or subscribe to the webpage. It's 2p a day. You can sign up for £1 a month. And no, I don't earn minimum wage or come anywhere near it.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.